Hello, hi, and welcome to The Piano with Harriet Stubbs. I hope that you have had a wonderful Easter, Passover, and holiday weekend. If you are new, welcome to the podcast. This is the 8th episode of season 1, and you can catch up on any that you might not have listened to on Apple, Google, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, last week we spoke about memory. And for those of you that don't know, I am currently in the process, almost at the end of the process, of memorising my new album coming out in September, which is produced by Mike Garson, pianist on David Bowie's Aladdin Sane, and toured with Bowie throughout the US for many years. And his arrangements and production of the album really makes it so special and ties all of the repertoire from Bach right through to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, to David Bowie, and I'm so excited to share it with you. That piece that I just opened with is actually a Mike Garson original from his meditations called I Am, and will be on the record, and is one of the things I've just memorised, so excited to share it with you. As we talked about last episode, the process of memorising is at times a really frustrating one, but it does allow us to have a relationship with the music, or at least myself to have a relationship with the music, that transcends what is possible without having to go into the level of detail necessary to memorise a piece of repertoire. And whilst memory is not always possible with short periods of time to learn things and all kinds of different reasons, when it is possible, it's a process that I feel really enriches my relationship with what I'm learning. And that really leads us into today's subject, which is nourishment. Now, the detail required in memorising to a level where it's safe to perform publicly, for me anyway, really relies on memorising the smallest details, as those details are the things that really hold it together live, and visually as well, when relying on that part of my memory, can bring me back to a point where I am in the music and recenter it. Even a dynamic or something relatively small can really hold it together in performance. And so every time one of those details is stranded together, my understanding of the music deepens, and it also breaks down that barrier that can happen when I've been working on something for a while and I no longer hear it with the same newness as I do before, and start to not listen as intently. It makes you listen intently all over again. And so I wanted that to lead into a conversation around the consumption of music and nourishment and what that means. For a start, quality practice is nourishing to all of us. And that doesn't just apply to music, that applies to anything that we practice. I believe music to be inherently good and a language that's accessible to all of us to explain the unexplainable and to articulate the most complicated and wide-ranging emotions of everyone on the planet. And so in learning music in a nourishing way, i.e. in a focused and practical and honest way, which usually requires a lot of patience, we get the privilege of accessing something much greater than ourselves, music, which in seeking, due to its inherent goodness, automatically nourishes us and makes us better, I think. There's also a humility in trying to access something greater than ourselves, which music forces us to do all the time. And all the lessons that I learn through patient practice, which isn't all of my practice, it's when my practice is good. All of the lessons learnt in that process of detail, listening, patience, and all the things that are necessary to really succeed in accomplishing a piece to the best that we can. All of those skills, when applied to every other area of our lives, nourish and teach us and keep us really happy human beings. Bringing it back to the consumption of music, when we had to listen to music, putting on a record, have to get up and change it if we wanted to not listen to the complete album, that usually meant that we had a better experience of the music because we experienced it as a whole. And that consumption has changed with playlisting being the new album in many ways, and curating our own experience, but it also leads to a lack of patience with what we consume. And I think that really ties into a dissatisfaction that doesn't nourish us as human beings. And so the act of skipping through a lot of music and not really engaging with it is not the same experience and doesn't give us as much. Really, it's the act of being intentional in what we listen to. And with technology in general, if we consume it like McDonald's, that we just allow it to come into our sphere and sort of binge through it, we don't get to get the best out of it. And with ChatGPT and these increasing conversations around AI and how they relate to the arts, firstly, ChatGPT is never going to create something that is equal to what we as human beings are able to access through our own creativity, because true creativity cannot be mimicked by a machine. It's just a culmination of other people's creativity and has lost its potency in the act of being mimicked or imitated. And if we come back to intention, something like ChatGPT can't be genius because it's not enlightened. With art and intellectualism and science and emotional intelligence, the human being's desire, our desire to access something greater than ourselves, enables us to, if we're lucky, access something greater than ourselves. And I think that innate intention is easily recognizable to another human being when they have experienced it. And so nothing that artificial intelligence of any kind writes is going to be able to compete with that innate intention that another human can recognize the second that they receive a piece of writing or a piece of art, music. And if it's come into something like ChatGPT's sphere, it has already happened. Not to mention the obvious inaccuracies. But nothing new is going to be discovered. So the point of creating is somewhat diminished. It can also be no closer to the original source than us, and therefore can't really do anything other than copy. So I think really what I wanted to share with you today is how intentional we can be around using music for its fullest power, and in the same way that when we eat good food we feel great and exercise and are in nature and all of these amazing resources that we have, music is able to be the same when we approach it curious for it to teach us. There are lots of helpful and amazing advances in technology that enhance our learning experience, and I think it's really about us choosing what serves us, using our creativity and intelligence. There is so much that can help us and aid us, but I think rather than just consuming it, if we are intentional around how we interact with it, then it can serve us rather than prohibit us from enjoying the things in life that we would like to their fullest. I'm going to close out with Space Oddity, which is also going to be on my upcoming album. On the 7th of May, so the weekend of the coronation of King Charles, I am going to be doing a return window concert from the pandemic series that I gave when I did 250 concerts. I've been asked to by our local councillors, and I'm very excited to do a one-off. All of you are welcome if you're in London on that weekend. It's going to be at 10:30 a.m. on Gordon Place in London, and I will be performing for around 20 minutes before everyone goes on to the coronation celebrations. So I hope that you will be able to join me then if you are here. I will also be streaming it on my social media for those that are not in the UK. Please don't forget to rate, subscribe and share the podcast. I really would love any feedback that you have to be left on the questions section on Anchor or Spotify, where you can leave me a voice note and I can include it in the show and respond to you. You can follow me on Instagram at harriet.stubbs and TikTok at pianistharriet88. I hope that you have a wonderful bank holiday weekend. Thank you very much for joining.